Hey guys, Bubba here at the BubbaNews. All in one word, all in one news. How are you guys doing tonight? It is now May 23rd. I can't believe it's already Friday night. My goodness. But tonight it is me and Mrs. Bubba's 10-year wedding anniversary. So got some takeout for her with her shoulder being bad. She didn't want to go out, so we got some stuff to bring home. So we'll try to keep it, yeah, with all the news going on, guys. I'm going to try to keep it short. But it may take 30 to 40 minutes, seriously, because I'm going to cover some stuff from yesterday and today. But this is really starting to speed up, folks. Not only did they have UN meetings in New York City today at the United Nations, on the two-state solution, but they also had them in parallel in Paris, France today. Paris is counting on the weight of Saudi Arabia with Mohammed Bin Salman. Check this out, at three levels: at the Arab level, at the Islamic level, and at the international level. So they're looking at Mohammed bin Salman to have power and control over the Arab side, those local there, the Islamic side, that's worldwide, and the international side, this is nuts, but, as they co-chair the June conference on the peaceful settlement of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution. Here's what they said: in a world that is upside down, the two-state solution is now oh man, I get so excited, guys. The two-state solution is now more urgent than ever. That's what my point is. Oh man, maybe I just need to start this video over. How far have we gone today? Oh man, I'll just keep going, but you know what I mean? This is crazy town. All right, let's settle down, Bubba. All right, let's get going over here. Goodness gracious, Bubba, you're getting yourself all flustered. Let's just start off a telegram. But yeah, let's start with the verse because I love this. 1 John 4:4. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Because if we have Jesus Christ inside us with the Holy Spirit indwelling us, greater is the Creator than that of the created. And this world is surrounded by such darkness. It's crazy town. But guys, we are getting so close. You guys will see this today, but check this out. I'm going to try to go over this. And what I'm going to try to do is explain this too, because this is so confusing. But this is pretty deep. So we're going to just keep going. All right, let's start here. Yesterday, France and Saudi Arabia are working on a proposal to disarm Hamas terrorists to pave the way for its demobilization. So the proposal would remove Hamas from the Gaza Strip entirely, but they want Hamas to rather remain as a solely political identity. The Saudi officials have been in contact with Hamas as part of these efforts, and it's unclear if France has also been in direct contact, but check it out. As they're wanting to get this two-state solution, they're now going for the gusto. They're getting a hold of Hamas, and they're be like, hey, this is what we're doing. The big boy plan is coming. Are you on board or not? So they're going to allow Hamas to retain a degree of political power. That would make them more likely to accept disarming. And the objective of the talks is to transform Hamas into a purely political entity that can still play some role in future Palestinian governance. In other words, guys, if you lay down your weapons and if you allow me as Mohammed bin Salman to take over the Temple Mount and to sign a 7-year treaty, a truce with Israel, and get this two-state solution going, we'll let you have some power. This is crazy because the recognition that France is going to give at the UN in New York, it's all coming together. But as we get to today's news, yeah, we're going to hear about more than just France recognizing the state of Palestine. But you know what? We were all excited because my buddy over there, Penny, there on Twitter, the Twitter worlds, we've been discussing this whole two-state solution stuff, and she pointed this out to me, so I shared it with you guys. And yesterday, this came out yesterday for today. This was the U.S. preparatory meeting of the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution. The conference is aimed at urgently advancing the implementation of the UN resolutions pertaining to the question of Palestine and the two-state solution for the achievement of a just, lasting, and comprehensive peace in the Middle East. There This is all coming together, and this is what I threw up yesterday, because I said, Bible prophecy watchers, the time is now to read this document for the UN June the UN June conference, where they're going to implement the two-state solution, because this whole Peace Day effort is coming. This was launched back on September 18th, 2023, and they are going to try to do this year. Because they wanted to do this. Okay, they came out with this September 18th, 2023. And then a couple weeks later was the invasion of Israel by Hamas on October 7th. So they never got to do this Peace Day effort to go towards normalization with Saudi Arabia and Israel. So this Peace Day is still coming. And they're going to pick up this Peace Day effort. And they want to finalize this by September 27th, 2025. That's 927. That's crazy, because that's Daniel 9:27, but we'll get more to that later. But, from the UN document, they use keywords about being time-bound and irreversible, concrete, new regional security architecture. That screams out Abraham Accords. So they're talking about doing an irreversible pathway towards the settlement of a two-state solution, and it's not aimed at adopting a declaratory outcome or to renegotiating existing resolutions, but rather building on the clear positions already adopted by the Assembly to focus on the necessary actions to go forward to achieve this urgent implementation and to lead to concrete and time-bound commitments. And otherwise, this has to be done by a certain date, period, by all relevant actors that are part of this whole process. And they're talking about, they want the end game of this conference to materialize into a global, international consensus, marking a point of no return. Settling the ground the way forward by providing the environment needed for a just and lasting peace solution to Palestine. So this isn't to revive or to relaunch another endless process, basically, but to implement once and for all the two-state solution. And that's just on one section. I mean, this whole thing, and I posted the link in Telegram, and I'll throw it down here in the link of the YouTube video below, but they're talking, they want this to be quick, time-bound, and irreversible. In other words, check this out. Talking about the objective of implementation, it says it must be to materialize the independent and sovereign Palestine state alongside Israel and to foster mutual recognition in parallel as a necessary step towards peace. In other words, Palestinian statehood should not be a result of peace, but rather its prerequisite. Did you catch that? In other words, Palestinian statehood, or the state of Palestine, the two-state solution, should not be a result of a peace plan, but rather its prerequisite. In other words, Palestine, the state of Palestine, they want to have that done before they can have this peace plan that will be strengthened and confirmed in September of 2025. And they're basing this all on the Arab Peace Initiative, which is the API. Oh, guys, this is really starting to get nuts. Seriously, but, we've got to keep an eye, too, on Trump, because Netanyahu's influence over Trump is falling. Basically, Mohammed Bin Salman he's gaining clout globally. Netanyahu, you know what I mean? Like, he'd be the stock to sell, and MBS on the right-hand side would be the stock to buy. You know what I mean? Like, Netanyahu's going down, but Mohammed Bin Salman's rising to the top. So officials say that Bibi's sway with Trump at the start of his presidency back in January was basically a 9 out of a 10. But now it has dropped to maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10. Because Mohammed Bin Salman is being the dominant voice in shaping U.S. policy in the Middle East now. MBS is the leader of everything that is coming. The two-state solution, he's the leader of it. The peace plan, he's the leader of it. He wants to be the leader of the Abraham Alliance. This is why he's doing this big military deal. Thank you, Helen Dixon. I love you, sweetheart. But the alliance that's coming up, the Temple Mount control, that's another one that's huge, Mohammed bin Salman. So the suffering and the hunger in Gaza have suddenly become central issues for the Trump camp. And this is basically what he's saying ever since he visited Saudi Arabia and did his Middle East tour. So Trump has also refrained from blocking the Saudi and French-led initiative to hold the conference in New York next month for the two-state solution. And it's scheduled for June 17th. This is gonna get nuts because French President Emmanuel Macron and Prince Mohammed bin Salman are pushing the Western governments now to recognize the state of Palestine and announce it during this summit. We're gonna talk about that. This is crazy, but check this out. The Peace Day effort. I did just show that. Okay. One last thing. Yeah, that's the original. Right before the October 7th. And this is what they had planned back then. So now this is what they have planned for September 2025. Makes me think that this Peace Day effort comes this fall at the UN when this treaty, accord, truce, plan gets strengthened. Okay, thinking with this Peace Day effort being mentioned, let's see what else is coming up in September, shall we? Okay, September 23rd through the 29th is the 80th United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week at the UN headquarters in New York. The International Day of Peace is September 21st. The International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons is September 26th. And someone pointed out in comments to me on the YouTube posting side there saying that's been going on for years, and he's right. Because even like this International Day of Peace, this has been going on ever since 1982, I believe. And they set it always to be on September 21st. So it makes me wonder if this Peace Day effort, as part of this two-state solution plan, happens on that International Day of Peace, which is September 21st. And all these meetings are happening right around the beginning of the fall feast for Israel. The Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah begins. But this is 1 year from when the two-state solution and peaceful settlement for the two-state solution was made public on September 26th, 2024. I still believe that whatever they're going to come out with in June will probably be a 7-year plan. But they're going to confirm it or strengthen it. The Arab peace plan, at least making it this peace plan, I believe that's coming this fall. And especially with the Abraham Alliance and everything coming up. Yeah, it's getting crazy. And I'm going to take a break from the Global Alliance for the implementation of the two-state solution. But last night, Iran is still going. I mean, we've still got these talks we're going to talk about in a second. But you know what? Last night, an unusually widespread wave of Israeli attacks hit Lebanon. So it's starting to, this is actually destabilizing what's going on right now because Israel and Hezbollah have a ceasefire currently. But basically, Hezbollah has ceased, but Israel continues to fire. So since their ceasefire came up in November, Israel has killed over 150 Hezbollah operatives. And they've struck over 400 airstrikes have hit in Hezbollah areas. And estimates are that Hezbollah still has between 20 and 25,000 rockets left in their arsenal. Oh, whoops, there it is.
Rana?
That was a massive explosion last night.
Rana?
So in South Lebanon, ammunition depots and Hezbollah positions were destroyed. This is the most massive air campaign since the ceasefire in November. But keep in mind, a strike on Iran is still coming. And Israel, last night they appeared to be clearing the dangers that are close to home before the upcoming Iran strikes. But Israel's going to have to deal with the head of the octopus. They're going to have to cut off that head of that snake. Because this was nuts. Because last night, this was at what time was this when I threw this up? This was at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And the Houthis woke up Israel and sent a rocket alert. They sent a ballistic missile, waking them up at 4 in the morning. So the head of the octopus Iran will be under the gun very soon. And I want you guys to see this too, because I don't think a lot of us look at all this area in red with Tel Aviv, right? See all that area? And they extended it, and this was an early picture, but they extended it down to Jerusalem. But here's my point. As you can see, that distance up there, that distance up here in Israel, there in the red, look how far away that is from Yemen. That's my point. You know, over here, just underneath the red ball in the upper right-hand corner, Zophar, that's Iran. I mean, Iran is closer. So this is that was the third missile strike by the Houthis towards Tel Aviv in the past 24 hours. But now they've been quiet for a while. So what happened last night, the Iranian foreign minister headed towards Rome for the 5th round of nuclear talks with the U.S. Here's what he said, but notice how he used the wording rocket science, of all things. Here's what the foreign minister, Aragachi, said. I am set to travel to Rome for the 5th round of indirect talks with the United States. Figuring out the path to a deal is not rocket science. But he went on to say 0 nuclear weapons. Okay, we do have a deal. But if you tell us 0 enrichment, we do not have a deal. Time to decide, unquote. You know, Iran isn't going to just get struck by Israel. Iran is going to get dismantled and bombed like no other bombing campaign in history. Don't be surprised to see low-yield nuclear bunker busters being used in the days to come. Israel and the United States have some tricks up their sleeves. And they might have to use these bunker busters that are nuclear with the low yield to actually, once one hits and they go down, say, 60 meters and creates a whole hole, then another one comes and creates another 60 meters down, and then another one hits another 60 meters, you know what I mean? Or 200 meters to get to these things. I mean, you know, I said this last night. I said, I wonder what happens today with these nuclear talks, because Iran's warned that it will exit negotiations. And it will exit the nuclear talks if the U.S. demands a full stop to uranium enrichment. So the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran regarding a new nuclear agreement, they're at a very fragile and critical point. And Khamenei said this week, marking the 1-year anniversary of the death of the Iranian President Raisi, who died in a helicopter crash. That's been 1 year ago. Man, it's hard to believe that it's already been 1 year, but he said that there is no hope in nuclear negotiations with the United States. In addition, he said that indirect nuclear negotiations with the United States will lead nowhere. So regarding the nuclear program, Khamenei added, we will not wait for anyone's approval. The American statements about preventing enrichment are unacceptable and ridiculous. The negotiations that began during Raisi's tenure as president before the helicopter crash were fruitless and are not expected to be fruitful now either. TikTok, Iran, that's all I've got to say. We're going to be talking about this even more here, but yeah, let's get going to today's news. But yeah, Matthew 19:26, with God, all things are possible. I love it. Man, the Bible's just opening up more and more lately. And I need to start talking more about Bible prophecy and how it's starting to come together. But man, it's so hard to keep up with everything these days. Anyway, let's keep going to today's news, because I started watching this earlier. And the preparatory meeting at the UN for the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, they resumed again. And I put this up, but they were there. They were there. All those, I mean, a bunch of people were there. They were taking big interest. Big interest. But, and I'll have to follow up tonight after this video. But, I wanted to see the concluding remarks by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France. That was going on, what time was that? It was supposed to, I had to go pick up my kiddo from work, but down there at the bottom, 5:40 p.m. to 6 p.m., the concluding remarks by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France. I wanted to hear that, just to hear part of what they've been discussing. But, to give some clarity, basically, on what's next. But, with everything that they've been discussing, what they want to do is they want to get the remaining members of the United Nations within each region, they said this today, who do not yet recognize the state of Palestine, to feel the pressure from other regional UN member states in order for these other countries to change their position. Guys, that screams out Zechariah 12, verse 2. Oh my goodness. I'm going to pause here because, no, actually, you know what? Let's just do this on the fly. This is crazy town. But we know that something's coming up because it talks about Jerusalem being a cup of trembling and a cup that causes reeling to all the peoples around Israel. Israel's Arab enemy neighbor states. And it talks about when the siege is against Jerusalem, it will also be against Judah. And this isn't at the end of Zechariah 14. This happens beforehand because God deals with these people, those who surround Israel, that tie in with Psalm 83. But it's really cool. But anyway, well, God's going to make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples and all who lift it or try to help Israel, like not become, friendly with Palestine or not accept this, will be severely injured. You know what I mean? All the nations of the earth will be gathered in unity against it. And that's exactly what they're doing with this two-state solution. My goodness. Basically what they want to do is they want to get all the other UN member states on board with the global consensus of recognizing the state of Palestine. And they're pushing for them to be let into the United Nations as a new member state. This is part of this whole process for the state of Palestine to become the 194th member of the United Nations. And part of the plan is to push Israel towards a two-state solution agreement with the world and the new state of Palestine. And what they're planning on doing to get Israel to do this, and this is in their video earlier today when they were talking about this. They want to do a global arms embargo on the state of Israel with 0 weapons to be sold or given to Israel going forward. This is getting nuts. This is starting to really get cuckoo town, guys. But you know what? Paris is relying on Saudi Arabia's influence at the those Arabs, with the Islamic people. Now we're going to all the Islamic people of the world, to the international levels, to all the international level, all the people of the world. Because France is relying on Mohammed Bin Salman basically to bring the entire world together for this two-state solution conference in New York. This is why France is teaming up with Saudi Arabia, because Macron is bringing the entire European Union over and all of the West, including Canada, that we're going to talk about in a minute, and soon the United States to join this. But Macron, you know what? He knows who's leading this party. Mohammed Bin Salman. So check this out. And this is why I said, all right, first of all, we've got to talk about, I feel so, let's just start with the guy on the left. That's the foreign minister of Egypt. The guy second from the far left with the funky tie, looks like he had a bad morning with the purple tie there. That's Mr. Foreign Minister from Jordan. And then the goober right there, who looks halfway stoned almost, right in front of the French flag and the EU flag. That's the foreign minister of France, and then you've got the foreign minister on the far right there of Saudi Arabia. But this is really starting to speed up, seriously, because they had that UN meeting in New York City today, but then they had this meeting today in Paris. So Paris, in New York, they witnessed 2 parallel meetings on the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the Palestinian issue and the implementation of the two-state solution. Don't try to say that too fast, because that's the official name of the conference. Goodness, can it be any longer? But it's going to be hosted at the United Nations in New York City from June 17th through the 20th, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France. Now, June 11th through the 13th, Macron, Starmer from the UK, what's his next? Carney from Canada. They're all the European Union, and all them are going to be at the June 11 to 13 in Alberta for the G7 conference, the summit. And Trump is now going to show up. So that's June 11 to 13. And then June 15 to 17 are some other meetings that are coming up, and then this whole other meeting with the 17th to the 20th. Oh, that's what it is. France is having their meeting with the Saudi Arabia June 11 to 13, and then the G7 between the 15th and the 17th, and then France comes to America for this whole two-state solution thing on the 17th to 20th. It's hard to keep up, my goodness. But, the two meetings today, this indicated that the preparations have been launched at a very intensive pace for this conference, and that the sponsoring parties really want to achieve an actual breakthrough that would open the door again to the absence currently of a political solution by returning to the basics of the conflict and its first pillars that enable the Palestinians to build their promised state. So Paris is counting on the weight of Saudi Arabia at the Arab, Islamic, and international levels as being the co-chair of the conference under a proxy from the UN under a resolution that was taken on December 3rd, 2024. And the Assembly adopted a resolution titled Peaceful Settlement for the Question of Palestine. And they had 157 votes in favor. Do you guys remember me sharing that last year? I showed that map or the board there, but 157 votes in favor for the state of Palestine, 8 against, and 7 abstentions. So Israel, the occupying power, must comply with international law. This is what they're saying, including ceasing all settlement activities and evacuating Jewish settlers from the occupied Palestinian territory, the text demands. And they want all of the Jews out of the West Bank within 1 year. Remember that? We reported on that, I believe. It was either in September, I think it was. Anywho, Paris's full involvement provides the conference with the essential support because France is a permanent member of the Security Council, the United Nations Security Council, and they have a very influential capacity within the European Union and also with the West. But more so the European Union. Basically, France can say boom, 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 and the European Union is like, yes, okay. And therefore, there's a kind of bridge between the Arab and European sides. This is what they're doing. This is why they're bridging between Macron and they're bridging it down to Mohammed Bin Salman. But, here's what they're working on. Well, let's see if I can scroll in a little better, and I'll show you guys down below. But you see, they're going to have these roundtables that are coming up. And they're going to be these they're working groups. And the purpose is to provide concrete proposals to advance this implementation of the two-state solution. And this is the only option they see to end the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So these groups are going to continue their activities until the date of the conference in June. And their conclusions will provide the basis on which the final document will be built. And that's the one I believe that gets signed in September. But they're going to present the final document at or right after the June 20th meeting, the final day, the longest day of the year, the solstice. And the final document is intended to serve as a roadmap for a political solution based on two states living side by side. And it will be published in June, but the thing I'm most interested in is right there at the very, very bottom. Roundtable 8, Peace Day effort. Co-chaired by the Arab League and the European Union. That's going to be the one to watch. So what is required to get to the establishment of the two states? Well, Paris adds that what is required is not to discuss international resolutions that have already been passed. Don't bring those up, in other words, the resolutions that have been on Israel. In other words, let's focus on practical measures going forward that facilitate the reaching and implementing of a solution. In other words, let's let bygones be bygones, but let's get this done. So there's two things. There is a goal, and there is now this huge global conviction. The goal is to mobilize the international community around the need for a political solution. The conviction is the ability to launch a quote-unquote political dynamic that brings the political solution back to the forefront, considering that there is no alternative to this which includes a military solution. Huh. So there's no alternative to the two-state solution, but this will also include a military solution. I wonder if the Abraham Alliance is going to be this military solution. And with what's coming up, I have a feeling that if, I'm throwing this out there as a crazy dart, kids, just bear with me, but let's just say that Mohammed Bin Salman is the AC. I can see him suddenly coming to strong power because of all the military might that he's getting from Trump. And he's going to promise to protect Israel. And I still believe with the wars that are coming up, with Israel going on the offensive against Iran, and with Israel having to defend itself against its Arab neighbors surrounding her, she's going to use up all of her weapons. And this is why Israel's going to get hit hard, that we read about in Isaiah 17, verses 4 to 6, smack in the middle of the Damascus prophecy of all things. But Palestine, which has so far been recognized by at least 150 countries, remember I said we just talked about that, how 157 voted for it? Well, not among them is any Western country that holds a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. At least not in the West. So, like the United States. So, Macron there of France, he is ready to recognize a Palestinian state. And he's going to recognize it officially at these meetings. But check it out. The joint tripartite statement that was issued on Tuesday by France, Britain, and Canada, this angered Netanyahu because they have now confirmed that they will now recognize the Palestinian state at the June 17th through the 20th conference. Not only France, but also Britain and Canada. The United States will be the last holdout when all is said and done, folks. Here's what it says. Israel's security guarantees entitles disarming Hamas, removing it from the rule of Gaza, and considering a regional security architecture to which Israel is a party. The Abraham Accords. Well, they're going to expand into the Abraham Alliance as part of the security provisions, quote unquote, that will be promised to Israel. All of this is interconnected one way or another, guys. This is wild town. Seriously, this is crazy town stuff. But the peace plan with Israel's security still needs to be addressed. So here's the main countries that have not extended formal recognition to the state of Palestine yet. And they're currently considered missing from the global echelon. Canada, France, UK, Netherlands, Italy. All those 5 countries I just announced, Canada, France, UK, Netherlands, Italy, and others are now making their move towards the formal recognition at this United Nations conference, June 17th through the 20th. So these countries often, though, cite why they haven't, recognized Palestine yet, but they often cite the need for they want to see a negotiated 2-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to happen first. Then they can recognize the state of Palestine. So they want to see a negotiated 2-state solution first. Then they will recognize the state of Palestine. Well, this 2-state solution is getting ready to happen, no doubt. And June will be a true insane whirlwind, guys, if we are still here. If we are still here. This is just absolutely crazy town. All right, let's finish it off with some Iran stuff. We'll get out of here because it's a Friday night. But yeah, after the 5th round today of talks, Iran says the discussions with the United States, they're complicated. And he finally left a little bit ago, about an hour or two ago, for Tehran after the nuclear talks there with Iran and USA. So he said with the United States, the nuclear talks, they're complicated. The negotiations are too complicated to be resolved in 2 or 3 meetings, he said. They've had 5. But he said the negotiations are too complicated to just be resolved in 2 or 3 meetings. So he was leading the Iranian negotiation team in the talks that were being mediated by Oman. That's these 2 guys. Guy on the right is the Oman dude. The guy on the left is Foreign Minister of Iran, Arghachi. I know it's not Arghachi. It just sounds fun. But you know what? He said there was potential for progress in nuclear negotiations after Oman made several proposals. But in other words, Iran continues to just buy time. And analysts in Tehran say Iran is unlikely to back down. It's quite simple. If the U.S. expects Iran to halt nuclear enrichment, then there can't be a deal, said Mohammed Marandi, a political scientist and advisor of the Iranian nuclear issue. So Friday's talks took place before the International Atomic Energy Association, the IAEA, their Board of Governors meeting, coming up in Vienna, Austria next month, in June, during which Iran's nuclear activities are going to be reviewed. And the 2015 deal provides for the possibility of UN sanctions being reimposed through the snapback mechanisms if Iran fails to fulfill its commitments. The agreement's 3 European parties, Britain, France, and Germany, have warned that they will trigger the mechanism if the continent's security is threatened. In other words, if Iran's playing dirty and they feel threatened, oh yeah. But Iran's foreign minister said that such a move would have consequences, not only the end of Europe's role in this agreement, but also an escalation of tensions with Europe that could become irreversible. So now Iran is getting more enemies against him. Israeli Mossad chief David Barnea was there today at the nuclear talks, which I found very interesting. The Israeli Mossad chief was there with the strategic affairs minister, Ron Dermer, and the U.S. negotiator, Steve Witkoff in Rome. So Trump has repeatedly threatened to unleash airstrikes targeting Iran's program if a deal is not reached. But Iranian officials continue to warn that they're going to pursue a nuclear weapon if Iran feels threatened. So it's a literal ticking time bomb with Iran. And, and there are reports tonight even that the IDF is actually intensifying their preparations for a possible war on multiple fronts. Because Iran's proxies like Hezbollah, and like this image, the Houthis, of course, they've been escalating. And actually today and yesterday, Gaza's been firing off some rockets towards Ashdod down there in the bottom. And Sderot. But also Israel's talking about these 7 fronts. Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon with the Hezbollah, Syria, Yemen with the Houthis, Iran, Iraq. Those 7 countries, but given what could be coming soon, don't be surprised to see 2 or 3 more countries being added to this list. I don't know about you guys, but it is all coming together. And, man, it just feels like we're all getting tired. But we're seeing everything coming about. And the day is coming that Israel's just going to become, it's going to be, the heavy stone for all peoples. I mean, it's going to be absolutely nuts what's coming. Is the deal with Iran coming? I do believe so. And it very well could begin next week. The new moon on the 27th. I'm just throwing that out there. It's a very strong possibility. Like Wackadoodle Samoan brought out last night. Israel became a nation May 14th, 1948. May 15th, the Israeli War of Independence began, as you had Jordan and Egypt and Syria and, attacking Israel. So something like that could happen. And you know what? Even the 6-Day War was in June of 1967. So big wars are coming up. You know what? It's almost like the time frame. I wouldn't be surprised to see an attack on Iran, but this will be a big, big operation. And we'll see it start going down, I believe, if and when we start getting reports of their grid going down, or their electricity going down, or their networks going down, something internally, because I believe Israel and the United States are going to do their best to shut off their communications and to basically make them as dark as possible so that when they do their attack, they can be as successful as possible. And maybe, we've got to review Jeremiah 49, verses 34 to 37, but if Israel ends up using some low-level nukes and they actually hit some nuclear material down below, even if they use something like that in Bushehr nuclear power plant and it comes all the way across the Persian Gulf and starts poisoning the people of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, that would definitely get Saudi Arabia mad at Israel ASAP. Even though a peace plan is coming, I could still see that fulfilling Bible prophecy with everything going on. And thank you guys so much for your prayers with Mrs. Bubba. Something's not right. It ain't good with her shoulder. She sent me the link and I need to look it up, but she's a mess. Oh, I feel so bad for her. It's something with her AC joint. And what I was reading is like they're going to have to repair or replace the AC joint via surgery. Very possibly. We're meeting on June 6th. With the doctor and surgeon, because he's like, yeah, we need to get you in here as soon as possible and discuss and talk about this. So, but I told my wife, I said, sweetheart, I don't think we're going to be here June 6th. We'll see. Anyway, but there's cartilage damage, bursitis. She also has low-level edema to the rotator cuff muscles and tendons with a tear. And it says she also has a degenerative shoulder labral tear. I don't know what all that means right now, but it sounds, of course, very painful. But this labral tear with the degenerative shoulder labral tear is both front and back, interior and posterior. So I just ask for your prayers for her, just for her pain and whatnot, and God will heal her. But I just want to be healed. All of us just want to be healed. We all just want to get out of here. But you know what? We've got to get the gospel out because, guys, it is all coming together. Then if you're on the fence right now, and if you're still watching this and you're not so sure about Jesus Christ, here's what I say. It's getting ready to get really real, really fast. This isn't a game. All these are prophesied to come. The choice is up to you. Jesus has already paid the price for you. Any sin, every sin you've done, past, present, and future, is covered by the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. All you have to do is cry out to him. I love the ABCs, and it makes it too simple, stupid. Accept with all your heart. Believe. Confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. But you know what? Give it all to the Lord. Give it all to him. Test him this week. If you don't trust him right now, ask him to show you some things. He will. This end times, things are getting ready to get really nuts. And if you really want to test God, he's really going to show up. And guess what? He's going to show off. And you're going to see that this is real. But the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords is coming so very soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. I can't wait to meet you in glory. You guys are just an amazing blessing to me and my family. Thank you so much. But until we talk again, whoa, let's see if we can do this again, Bubba. Let's see here. If I'll go back over here. Okay, good. We're still here. Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to just be fancy. You guys know me by now. I'm from Indiana. What you see is what you get. But I was just trying to show my little ending that I used a long time ago. I figured I'd use it tonight. So until I see you guys next time, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you here, there, or in the air. Maranatha, Jesus Christ is coming so very soon.